Welcome to Get Real, How to Live a More Authentic Life, with psychologist and author of over 75 books, Dr. Barry Weinhold. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Get Real, How to Live a More Authentic Life with Dr. Barry Weinhold. Dr. Weinhold, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am good. I am good. It's the fourth week in a row that I am out here in my backyard for recording these shows, and I'm loving it. The summer's here, and it's getting warmer every single week, which is just beautiful. How are you doing out in Colorado?
Yeah, well, when it reaches July 1, we kind of think of that as, or maybe even July 4, as the middle of the summer. And I'm not ready for it to be over that quickly. I'm not, I don't want to think about that. That's going to be half over soon. But I've had some fun so far. Got some fishing in, got some dancing in. Listened to some great live music, some outdoors, some indoors. Got to hear my favorite Pink Floyd tribute band, and I'm a groupie. I even have the T-shirt.
Oh, I love it. What's your favorite Pink Floyd album?
Dark Side.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, although
Very nice.
Umaguma comes in a close second.
Nice.
If you ever heard that
Very
one.
nice.
That's a very diverse album.
Love it. Do you have a favorite song?
On Umaguma
On just in general?
of Pink Floyd?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let me think about that. I haven't thought about what my favorite is. I like so many of them. I don't know if I even have a favorite.
Might be a cliche, but it's Time for me.
Oh yeah, it's Time. Yeah, that's a good one.
Time always gets me.
Yeah.
Well, time gets everyone, to be fair, Dr. Weinhold.
It
Time
does.
gets everyone. But what are we talking about today?
Well, I've talked about the problem. I've talked about a possible solution. And this time the question is, does it work? And I want to show how it has worked and how it can work in the future, if anyone wanted to pick this up and do it in their school, what kind of outcomes they can expect. And so I'm really anxious to finish up this 4-episode focus on school shooting, school violence, and what to do about it. So that's really what I'm going to be talking about this time. And I kind of think about and when I talk to schools about that, that's one of the biggest things. They have to have some accountability. They want to know, well, how are you going to measure the effectiveness? How are we going to know whether this is working or not? Those are common questions I ask. So I was quite eager to create a program, an evaluation program that did what we hoped it would do, which show people very concretely how this is working in their school. So typically when I started in a school, I would speak before the school assembly. Oh, and I should have put a picture of him, but I had a mascot. And particularly in elementary schools, it was really powerful because the kids just loved the mascot. It was a robot. It was rode around on a motorized tricycle, and I could maneuver that tricycle from the back of the room with a remote control. I could also talk through the mouth. Mouth was voice activated, so I could talk to kids through Leo, the kind-hearted lion. and he rode around a tricycle, which I could move with my device I had to move him around, and then talk to the kids about kindness. We even programmed into him. There was a little tape recorder in Leo, and I had one of my friends create a kindness song, and we actually created two. We created first one that was kind of a ditty, and my friend said, "You need something that's more rap." So he put together a rap song on kindness that Leo would sing to the kids, and it was really great. They loved it, and the kids would come up and hug Leo, and they actually hugged his whiskers off. He had artificial whiskers on each side, and after all the hugging, I had to go and replace his whiskers because they'd hugged the whiskers off. So he was really the hit. I was kind of the sidekick to Leo in the eyes of the kids. But it gave me a good intro, particularly in elementary schools. We use it in some middle schools as well, and it was effective there as well. Not in high schools, of course. That was too kid stuff for them. Anyway, I would speak before the school school assembly and tell them about the kindness campaign and what we were going to do. And in fact, in one school, I was called by the principal to come down and talk to her first before I did a presentation. And she said, "I have a problem in my school that maybe you can help me with. I got two boys who are bullying and harassing people on the playground every day. And I've had them in my office. I've done discipline, and it hasn't done any good. And I think they're pretty good kids, but they've kind of gone negative instead of positive. So she said, would you be willing to meet with these two boys ahead of your assembly and see if you could talk them into being part of this?" So I went down, brought Leo with me, which was a great idea. These two boys loved Leo, and they wanted to immediately start to be the person who moved Leo around on his tricycle and talked to the kids through his voice. And so anyway, when we got to the assembly, I first of all introduced the two boys, and they got up in front of the whole school, and they said, we used to do a lot of nasty things on the playground and put people down and bully them, but we're not going to do any of that anymore because we're now ahead of the kindness campaign in this school, and we're going to make sure this school is a kinder school than it has been. And the teacher helped change their leadership from negative to positive, and they were great, and they loved being in that role. And then they brought Leo out, and they played with Leo with the audience, and that was great too. The audience loved Leo, and the fact that they were behind the curtain, making Leo talk to them and everything was really fun. So actually, in a lot of schools, they wanted to know, okay, how can we get this program evaluated? How can we tell whether it's working? Well, the first thing I did was right after the assembly, I had a survey questionnaire that I put together, and it was for the teachers to observe the number of put downs. Actually, I did that actually before the assembly. I would do it the day before the assembly. I would have the teachers count the number of student to student put downs that they observed in their classroom. And then we would have the campaign in operation for a period of time, usually 4 to 6 weeks. And then we'd ask the same teachers to again survey that same classroom on the same day and find out what had changed in terms of put downs. And in every case, there was a reduction. One classroom reported a reduction of 94%. There were 94% fewer put downs after 6 weeks of the kindness campaign than before the kindness campaign. So that was pretty dramatic evidence that this was working. And then we did the same thing with referrals to the office for discipline. We looked at it before the campaign started, and then waited 6 weeks and looked at it again. And in every case, referrals to the office were down like 30, 40%. These are people who referred for fighting or getting in trouble with other people in the school. So we began to then see that there were some fairly easy pre-post ways we could tell whether this was working or not. Then we designed some that would really measure the whole year from the time we started until the end of the school year, and looked at some of the same variables: number of put downs, number of referrals. I also had a bullying survey, and I would give that pre and post and see the changes in the amount of bullying that the students reported, that they either engaged in themselves or they observed others to do this. And so basically, we began to develop an evaluation plan for each school that basically gave them really concrete data on how it was working, and it really was working quite well. So the first thing we had to look at was, okay, how do we address school bullying? And again, not wanting to focus so much on the negative, and my experience with the two boys that were bullying in this elementary school and how they changed their attitude if they had something positive to do, we kind of targeted the bullies with that kind of notion. Can we convert some of their bullying energy into positive things, positive results? And we had some pretty good success with that. But there's been research on school bullying. So put up that research. Let me talk about that in a minute. Yeah, the results indicate that this was in some schools that we observed it in and measured it. Observed bullying incidents from mid-November to mid-January, factoring in the holiday break. It was about 6 weeks between the two surveys. The first survey was before the campaign started, and then 6 weeks later was after the campaign had been in effect for 6 weeks. And there was a drop in every question on the survey. And the biggest drops occurred in the following questions. Question number 2, making other students scared. There was a 50% drop in that. In a group, teasing other students, 41% drop. Fighting students that they could easily beat, 53% drop. All these were highly significant drops when we looked at the numbers we had. Harassing other students, 41%. Threatening other students, 48%. Hitting back after being hit, and spreading rumors about other students, encouraging other students to fight. And the most encouraging results were that the teachers observed a 67% increase in the kind acts that students did to each other. Now, one of the things I did was this kindness button that I used in the community a lot. And I found that if I gave each teacher like 5 or 6 of these, then it was up for the teacher to start the process by catching some student in their class doing something kind for some other student or for themselves. And then they gave them the button, they wore it, and then their job was to pass it on to somebody else, either in that classroom. They could wear it all day, and they had to then turn it in at the end of the day. And so she kept resupplying that way. And so every day she would get the 5 buttons, although some of the guys and girls said, please let me take this home. I want to show this to my parents. I said, you can tell them about it and take a picture of you wearing the button if you want, but we need the button back at the end of the day. So that way I didn't have to resupply every day our teachers. And so that worked out okay. And the teachers would say that obviously they observed a 67% increase in kind acts that the students did to each other in their classes. So that showed me that, again, my premise was that if you focus on the positive and get people focusing on this positive, the negative will drop correspondingly to the amount of time and effort that they're putting into focusing on the positive. So it again was an initial kind of result that showed me that what we were doing was working, and we just had to keep doing what we were doing to keep it working. So the next one is looking at the expected outcomes that we tried to come up with, and we tried to measure them in a different way, a couple different ways. So there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different variables, outcomes that we thought would be influenced by a kinder and safer school climate. So reducing the discipline referrals to the office. And obviously, they're just counting the number of referrals. Pre and post was an easy way to measure that. And then the same way with reducing student to student put down survey pre and post, bullying survey pre and post on the third one, reducing suspensions and expulsions. And that was simple too. You just count the number pre and post that were occurring in that school. And in all cases, I'll tell you about the results of this in a little bit. But then we said that we thought that this would lead to an increase in school achievement, like the achievement test scores would increase pre and post. And that did happen. And increased school attendance. We knew that some people stayed away from school because of the presence of put downs and bullying. And so, again, looking at attendance records pre and post, we could tell. Increased participation in school activities. We thought if people felt better at school about their experience there, they would participate more with other students in activities, which again, we measured before the campaign started and then afterwards. Increased pro-social behaviors. We had a teacher survey that observed pro-social behaviors pre and post. And we had increased self-esteem and personal power. And we had a student self-esteem survey that we did pre and post with the students. Increasing nonviolent resolution of peer conflicts. That would have been a result of our conflict resolution class. And we had a bullying survey that measured that, whether there were more fights or how many non-violent resolutions happened. Increased resistance to peer pressures. Again, the bullying survey seemed to measure that, and so again, pre and post. Increased empathy, sensitivity, and relationship skills. The bullying survey was able to tap into that one and tell that increases in that one. And increased participation of parents in the school. Obviously, that would be parent volunteers, and you just had to count the number of parent volunteers before the campaign started and the number afterwards. And then lastly, we wanted to look at teacher self-esteem. Did this program have any effect on teachers' behavior? And we developed an inventory, a self-esteem inventory for teachers that we did pre and post. And so all of those gave us a pretty good idea of whether this program was working or not. And we were very much interested in finding out. And then the last thing is evaluation results. I summarized them pretty succinctly, but and we did 3 middle schools and 1 elementary school where we evaluated this, and the 3 separate middle schools reported an immediate drop of 30 to 32% in discipline referrals after an all-school assembly and 3 weeks of kindness activities in the school and classroom. Put downs observed by teachers dropped as much as 94% after 3 weeks of the kindness campaign. And a year-long study showed that in an elementary school that showed a 26% drop in discipline referrals. All of that was positive and led to having teachers and administrators have more time to devote to thinking about positive things instead of putting out fires and having to deal with negative things in the classroom. So that's sort of a summary of what we did, but all the other variables that were on that outcomes variable, expected outcomes, were positive, and we found positive results. So we knew it was working, and obviously the most important thing is, did it change the school climate? And my observation was in the schools that carried this out, the school climate increased and changed to be more positive and made the school safer, made the students feel better. There was more kindness displayed. And so it worked. And basically, the evaluation process was not very laborious. It just simply sometimes just, connecting with the existing records that they had, and in some cases, asking people to produce a pre-post measure, like on put downs and bullying and things like that, or and number of referrals to the Office for Discipline obviously was easy to measure, and all the others were pretty easy to measure as well. So that's what we did to find out whether this worked, and we found out it did. What do you think, Ben?
I think this is fantastic. I mean, this is just like it's a simple solution for a seemingly really complex problem, but you know, kindness can change the world, and these little steps in the right direction offer just gigantic leaps forward. So I think it's beautiful. And you said that people can download all of this stuff at circle.org, and then they can distribute it. Is that
Yes, right.
yeah,
Make as many copies as they want. If they need just to run off some of the classroom activities, to hand out to teachers, they can do that. Or if they have,
right.
you know, uh, parents. Well, and that's the other thing I wanted to mention is that uh, the other part of the program it began expanding when the need seemed to occur. And apparently, through PTOs and things, parents heard about this campaign. And they started to ask me, do you have anything to help me raise my kids more kindly? And I'm having trouble finding ways to say yes rather than no all the time. and and so what we did is we created a small booklet, and again using the same method that we used for creating the program guides. Is we asked parents to give us samples of things that they've tried that worked, and so we put those in this booklet, and we called it Raising Kind Kids, and practically gave it away. We sold it for $5 just to get get people to have some contribution to it. And then the preschool teacher said, "Hey, you have a K-12 program, but you're leaving us out." And we're finding there's a lot of kids, 3 and 4 year olds, who have a lot of they're fighting with each other all the time, and there's a
Yep.
lot of violence in our preschools. Can you help us with that? I said, sure. Did the same thing. Asked the preschools to supply me with the activities that they found worked the best to combat that problem. And then I included that in a manual called Kind Beginnings. So I had a community organizer's guide. I had a guide for preschools, a guide for K-12, a guide for parents, and then well, the community organizer's guide basically covered the community program. So I
I love it.
exported this to 12 12 communities, and 700 schools, over 700 schools have bought the program and are using parts of it. I'm not sure how much. I didn't follow up with them to find out exactly what they were going to use, but I typically recommend that you take at least a year, maybe even 2 years, to implement all the interventions that are suggested.
Hmm.
It takes a while to change that climate. It isn't something that's going to change overnight.
But it's so important to try,
Yeah.
and that's the most important thing here. Well, thank you so much. This has been a fantastic month's worth of conversation about this. Really important, and I hope that we all look at this information as we head into next year's school year. Is there anything you'd like to say before we go, Dr. Weinhold?
Well, next month, I'm going to be focusing back on my list of the 20 badass, stupid uh, beliefs that people have that get them in trouble, as well as more on my book. I'm going to do a little bit more in-depth work on what the book how the book can help people.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to that, and I can't wait to see you all next month. Check out circle.org. Click the link in the description for all of the information about this and every episode that we've done previously. And of course, you can go on there to purchase any of Dr. Weinhold's 80 books that he has written in the course of his life. So thank you so much. This has been Get Real, How to Live a More Authentic Life with Dr. Barry Weinhold. Dr. Weinhold, thank you so much for everything. Everybody else, bye for now.
Basically, what the whole thing is about is creating an authentic school. My whole focus has been on how to create a more authentic life. Well, this is part of life, and creating a more authentic school that works for everybody.
Perfect. I love it. I'm going to hit the button while I can still see it. I'm blinded by the light.
Yeah, you're blinded by the light for sure.
It's beautiful, but I literally can't see when I lean back like this now. So I'm enjoying the summer, but I should probably head inside. Thank you guys so much. We'll talk to you next time. Bye for now. For more information, please visit the Colorado Institute for Conflict Resolution and Creative Leadership at CICRCL.org or click the link in the show notes.